What is something that a fictional character said that stuck with you? Serious.
This is the worst day of your life. So far. Homer Simpson.
I wish it need not have happened in my time, said Frodo. So do I, said Gandalf, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us.
My favorite Gandalf quote comes from the same conversation. Frodo, it's a pity Bilbo didn't kill him when he had the chance. Gandalf, pity? It was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand. Many that live deserve death. Some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them, Frodo? Do not be too eager to deal out death in judgment. Even the very wise cannot see all ends.
When a child first catches adults out, when it first walks into his grave little head that adults do not always have divine intelligence, that their judgments are not always wise, their thinking true, their sentences just, his world falls into panic desolation. The gods are fallen and all safety gone. And there is one sure thing about the fall of gods, they do not fall a little, they crash and shatter or sink deeply into green muck. It is a tedious job to build them up again, they never quite shine. And the child's world is never quite whole again. It is an aching kind of growing east of Eden. John Steinbeck.
There's triplets in my mind. The woman I am, the woman I must be, the woman I long to be. Like all sisters, they tend to be at odds with one another. From Time to Precious Time. Divinity Original Sin 2 Sebil. Edit. I edited the quote to be exactly as in DOS 2. Just for the sake of all those who loved it unedited. She says that quote in ACTFORTJOY, when you ask about Stingtail and follow specific dialogue options.
Don't waste your time looking back. We're not going that way. Ragnar Lothbrok in Vikings.
You can ask any doctor, sometimes it seems like patients just hang on until everyone's had a chance to say goodbye. J.D. Scrubs. By coincidence, I first watched that episode with that particular quote in it the night after my grandmum died. She died whilst I was on the plane to see her and say my goodbyes, and I missed her by mere hours. That particular line had me on the floor weeping like a baby.
Statistics never matter to the individual. Perry Cox. I'm sorry for your loss. My grandmother died making direct eye contact with me as I told her how much she meant to me. It was beautiful and an honor, but it didn't lessen the pain much.
Money doesn't change people. It just makes it easier for them to be who they are. Grandpa Abraham Simpson.
Oddly enough, the one that stuck with me was also with Abe. I used to be with it, but they changed what it was. What I was with, isn't it, and what's it, is strange and scary.
Sucking at something is the first step towards being sorta good at something. Jake the dog.
Sin, young man, is when you treat people like things. Including yourself. That's what sin is. Granny Weatherwax.
Personal isn't the same as important. People just think it is. Also Granny Weatherwax and Captain Carrot.
A pen isn't mightier than a sword. Pens do not do battle, nor swords poetry. Mighty is the hand that knows when to pick up the pen, or pick up the sword. Weegraf Foles.
My first time, Afghanistan. We were moving through a house and suddenly a man was there and I shot him in the stomach. Yeah, that's a real war story. There are never any good stories like in movies, they're poo. A man was there, boom, stomach. I was so scared I didn't pull the trigger again for the rest of the day. I thought, well, that's it, Baco. You put a bullet in someone. You're not you anymore. You'll never be you again. But then you wake up the next morning and you're still you. And you realize, that was you all along. You just didn't know. From the 4th episode of Chernobyl.
This show was so full of great quotable lines. One of my favorites is by Legasov. Every lie we tell incurs a debt to the truth. Sooner or later this debt is paid.
Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. True humility is the only antidote to shame. Uncle Iroh.
This is the quote that stuck with me the most. Aang and Iroh were slowly walking together while descending a tunnel, earthbending in front of them as they went, with the intent to reach an underground cave complex to rescue Katara and Zuko. At this point in the series, Zuko had never been anything but an antagonist to Aang, and because Iroh is Zuko's uncle, the two hadn't ever had a real talk. Aang, so, Toph thinks you give pretty good advice, and great tea. Iroh, the key to both is proper aging. What's on your mind? Aang, well, I met with this guru who was supposed to help me master the avatar state and control this great power. But to do it, I had to let go of someone I love, and I just couldn't. Iroh, perfection and power are overrated. I think you are very wise to choose happiness and love. Aang, what happens if we can't save anyone and beat Azula? Without the Avatar state, what if I'm not powerful enough? Iroh, I do not know the answer. Sometimes, life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you just keep moving. Natural light shines through cracks in the stones in front of them as the tunnel gives way to a large cavern complex full of glowing green crystals. Iroh, smiling, you will come to a better place.
Do not mistake my silence for a lack of grief. Kratos to Atreus.
Along that line of feeling, you mistake my choice not to feel as a reflection of my not caring, while I assure you the truth is precisely the opposite. Spock. Edit. Autocorrect strikes again.
But if we stop, if we accept the person we are when we fall, the journey ends. That failure becomes our destination. To love the journey is to accept no such end. I have found, through painful experience, that the most important step a person can take is always the next one. Dalinar Corlin, Oathbringer. Every day, it gets a little easier. But you have to do it every day, that's the hard part. But it does get easier.
Thank you, wise running monkey.
Some people are so far behind in the race that they actually believe they're leading. Corrado Soprano.
Reminds me of the Dutch cyclist who thought she won the gold medal in the Olympics when in fact there was an Austrian competitor alone far in front.
We all need friends, old-timer. We die alone, but we live among men. John Marston.
Reminds me of, why are you doing this, Doc? Because Wyatt Earp is my friend. Hell, I got lots of friends. I don't.
People aren't thinking about you the way that you're thinking about you. Alexis Rose. Thanks for all the awards and upvotes. And no, the quote isn't from Axl Rose, lol. It's from Alexis Rose, who's a character on the wonderful Schitt's Creek. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's amazing.
I loved her character arc over the course of the show. I really loved her at the end.
A man's emotions are what define him. Control is the hallmark of true strength. To lack feeling is to be dead, but to act on every feeling is to be a child. Dalinar Corlin.
Dalinar has the best quotes in the Cosmere. Sometimes a hypocrite is nothing more than a man in the process of changing. The most important step a man can take is the next one.
I was really torn between the quote I posted and the hypocrite one. I really do love that one. I think it's a super important thing to remember in an age where everything is recorded and it's so easy to attack people based on things they said or believed years ago.
Ted Lasso. Guys have underestimated me my entire life. And for years, I never understood why. It used to really bother me. But then one day, I was driving my little boy to school and I saw this quote by Walt Whitman, and it was painted on the wall there. It said, "Be curious, not judgmental." I like that. So I get back in my car and I'm driving to work, and all of a sudden it hits me. All them fellas that used to belittle me, not a single one of them were curious. You know, they thought they had everything all figured out. So they judged everything, and they judged everyone. And I realized that they're underestimating me. Who I was had nothing to do with it.
And more recently. And I knew right then and there that I was never gonna let anybody get by me without understanding they might be hurting inside, you know. 'Cause life, it's hard. It's real hard.
Can a man be brave, even if he's afraid? That's the only time a man can be brave.
Reminds me of the IRL quote. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Nelson Mandela.
I may not have gone where I intended to go, but I think I have ended up where I needed to be. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Edit. Apparently it's a different Douglas Adams work, Dirk Gently.
I'm torn between that and Slatrabartfast's words. Perhaps I'm old and tired, but I think that the chances of finding out what's actually going on are so absurdly remote that the only thing to do is to say, hang the sense of it, and keep yourself busy. I'd much rather be happy than write any day, To which Arthur Dent replies and are you, Slatrabartfast no
It is possible to make no mistakes and still lose. That is not weakness, that is life. And #X200B. Thank you Captain Picard.
I think this is most critical to understand with regard to others, It's important to understand this regarding yourself, but it's also easier to incorporate all context in judgments of yourself. You should forgive yourself for failures, and that might take some cognitive effort, but you were also present for the whole situation and know all the facts. It can be harder, but no less important, to be compassionate to others when they fail, because you may not have all the context for it. And when you don't have all the context, it's tempting to write off others' failures as them just not doing the right things or having the right motivations or whatever. Essentially an extension of the fundamental attribution error link. You can see this all over the internet. Post any story, picture, video, whatever about yourself or someone else failing, and people will come from all corners of the world to tell you how you did this or that wrong, and how the failure was all your fault, and how they've never had any problems because they were smart, strong, motivated, whatever enough to do things this other way.
I think there are people that help you become the person that you end up being, and you can be grateful for them even if they were never meant to be in your life forever. Diane Nguyen, BoJack Horseman.
Despite my best efforts to the contrary, it turns out I've won. Arthur Morgan.
And that one quote he tells Mary's brother. Something like, I may not know much about anything, but what I do know is that there ain't nothing wrong with searching for a better world.
Saruman believes it is only great power that can hold evil in check, but that is not what I have found. I have found it is the small everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay. Simple acts of kindness and love. Tilda Gandalf.
There's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. Everybody's haunted by who they were and who they thought they'd be. Caduceus Clay.
Your secret is safe with my indifference.
Sam's speech in LOTR. Frodo, I can't do this, Sam. Sam, I know. It's all wrong. By rights we shouldn't even be here. But we are. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger, they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you. That meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going. Because they were holding on to something. Frodo, what are we holding on to, Sam? Sam, that there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. Edit, I've never had a post break 100 on Reddit before, and after reading all of the same love for this speech that I have for it has made my day, thank you.
Gandalf's speech helped me through 2020. Frodo, I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened. Gandalf, so do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. Thorin in The Hobbit.
When you look through rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags, BoJack.
If you aim at nothing you will hit nothing. Tilde tilde Sensei Ishikawa tilde tilde. Tilde tilde Ghost of Tsushima tilde tilde. Edit. Whoops, it was actually that one person in Shanghai.
She was the kind of girlfriend God gives you young, so you'll know lost the rest of your life. From Oscar WAO.
Is it better to be born good or to overcome your evil with great struggle? Parthunax.
Chitty explaining death like a wave returning to the ocean at the ending of The Good Place really hits me every time I read it, hear it or have a bad mood that really needs some emotional purging. Greater than. Picture a wave in the ocean. You can see it, measure it, its height. The way the sunlight refracts when it passes through, and it's there. And you can see it, and you know what it is, it's a wave. And then it crashes on the shore and it's gone. But the water is still there. The wave was just a different way for the water to be for a little while. That's one conception of death for a Buddhist. The wave returns to the ocean, where it came from, where it's supposed to be. Less than.
The Good Place has a lot of good quotes. One of my favorite is, if Donna Shellstrop has truly changed, then that means she was always capable of change, but I just wasn't worth changing for.
Never forget what you are, the rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor and it can never be used to hurt you. Tyrion Lannister.
Alt plus Shift plus X just did a whole video on Tyrion, and it really puts into perspective how badly that mindset came back to haunt Tyrion. In the books, he's actually on a path of destruction because he was so determined to be the monster people saw him as.
We do have a lot in common. The same earth, the same air, the same sky. Maybe if we started looking at what's the same instead of what's different, well, who knows? Meowth of Team Rocket.
I remember when Jon Stewart called out some politician for quoting this and not citing Meowth, haha. Edit, I got my Pokemon quotes mixed up. Thanks to the comments for clearing up this very important information.
It is important to draw wisdom from many different places. If you take it from only one place it becomes rigid and stale. Understanding others, the other elements and the other nations will help you become whole. Uncle Iroh.
If you look for the light, you can often find it. But if you look for the dark, it is all you will ever see.
Asterisk I'm not ready, asterisk. Asterisk no one ever is. We don't get to choose our time. Death is what gives life meaning. To know your days are numbered, your time is short. You'd think after all this time I'd be ready, but look at me. Stretching one moment out into 1,000 just so I can watch the snow, asterisk. Tilde Swinton as the Ancient One.
You're going to be all right. You just stumbled over a stone in the road. It means nothing. Your goal lies far beyond this. Doesn't it? I'm sure you'll overcome this. You'll walk again, soon. Guts.
How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. Winnie the Pooh. Edit. Thanks for the upvotes and rewards. My most popular comment ever.
One of my favorite scenes in Winnie the Pooh. Christopher Robin. Pooh Bear. What if someday there came a tomorrow when we were apart? Pooh. As long as we're apart together, we shall certainly be fine. CR. Yes, yes, of course. But if we weren't together? If I was somewhere else? P. Oh, but you really couldn't be, as would be quite lost without you. Who would I call on those days when I'm just not strong enough or brave enough? CR. Well, actually. P. And who would ask for advice when didn't know which way to turn? CR. Pooh, we. P. We simply wouldn't be. CR. Oh, Pooh. If ever there's a tomorrow when we're not together, there's something you must remember. P. And what might that be? Christopher Robin. CR. You're braver than you believe, and stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. P. Oh, that's easy. We're braver than a bee, and, longer than a tree, and taller than a goose. Or, was that a moose? CR. No, silly, old bear. You're braver than you believe, and stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. But the most important thing is even if we're apart, I'll always be with you. Link.
When you do things right people won't be sure you've done anything at all. Edit, thanks for the awards guys. I'm glad we all love that episode so much. Seeing all this after working all day is simply awesome. Thanks again.
You can't count on God for crap. He practically told me so himself. Also, I was God once. I saw, you were doing well until everyone died. That's my favorite episode.
Nobody is ever the villain in his own story. By George R.R. Martin. Somehow this helps in understanding why somebody does something. While it might hurt you, the other person probably thinks he does good. Use that info when you want to convince them.
My mom taught me this when, as a little kid, I asked why the bad guy starts crying in Return of the Jedi after Luke kills the monster. She said, that guy doesn't wake up thinking he's bad. He wakes up thinking it's his job to take care of the rancor, and Luke just killed his pet. Life is pain, Highness. Anyone who tells you differently is selling something. Westley, The Princess Bride.
Andy Bernard. I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
This was mine. God, it hits you like a ton of bricks.
There's good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for.
I don't believe it. Luke Skywalker. That is why you fail. Yoda, in response.
If I like a moment, for me, personally, I don't like to have the distraction of the camera. I just want to stay in it. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Tywin Lannister. _ He who must say, I am the king, is no real king.
And the comedy version from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It is a well-known fact that those people who most want to rule people are, ipso facto, those least suited to do it. To summarize the summary, anyone who is capable of getting themselves made president should on no account be allowed to do the job.
There are two for me. Your scientists were so preoccupied with wondering whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think whether or not they should. Dr. Ian Malcolm, Jurassic Park. If you want to know what a man's like, take a good look at how he treats his inferiors, not his equals. Sirius Black, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.